something's happened to the British people. They've accepted a 1.2 trillion bailout to the banks, and now they're trying to recover that money from the most vulnerable of society. A society that allows this does nothing about it. Doesn't sound like a very good society.
Tory scum, in case you didn't catch it. Well, it is childlike to resist, only inevitable that change will come. That's what we're hearing stateside around the Deficit Commission's plans, and it's what we heard from our media all week last week after 52,000 students marched in London against education cuts. As you no doubt heard, windows were broken and there was some damage to the Conservative Party headquarters. But that's not the most important thing about last week's direct action. For more, Laurie Penny is with us. She's a columnist for the New Statesman in the UK, and she was there the day of the protests. Hi, Laurie. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Laura. How are you?
So in that description, students protesting education cuts, what's missing?
Well, there are several myths going on with the education cuts and with the protests. So one of the big myths that the British press in particular is sending out is that the protests were just led by a small group of anarchists. And really, this isn't the case at all, because the people I saw leading the protest weren't, of course there were a few committed activists there, but actually most of the people were young kids who were on their first demo, who weren't, experienced protesters. They weren't there with the intention of causing damage to property. They just sort of got swept up in it, in this kind of big moment of anger. And I mean, the sense on the ground at Millbank was amazing, really. It was quite scary to be there, but actually, there was a band playing. It was really this big sense that, hey, we're together now, maybe we can actually change something. The protesters, they weren't all just there because they didn't want to pay more money for their university. I mean, actually, a lot of the protesters who were there weren't going to be affected by the changes at all. They were there because they were protesting on behalf of students who would follow them. Some of them were school kids who didn't want their EMA, educational maintenance allowance, taken away. And, the way that they've been portrayed as just sort of lazy students and anarchists not wanting to pay their fees is a little bit disingenuous, really.
Talk about what's at stake, because for an American audience, it's easy to cast a slight increase in fees and having to take out loans to go to college as just the stuff that people have to get used to, because that's what students here have had to deal with for years.
Well, I mean, the British government is very much saying that, they're using the American system as a way of saying, well, students in the US have to put up with this, so why shouldn't you? But actually, the system in the United States, a lot of people in Britain are looking at it and saying, well, we don't want that. We don't want fees of $50,000, $60,000, £200,000 or dollars a year. We don't want to be paying that. We don't want to have to be saving for our education from a very, very young age. And it'll mean that a lot of people from poor backgrounds and from less well-off backgrounds aren't going to want to take on that cost of going to university. It'll mean that social mobility and the ability of people to get educated and better themselves will very much, be contracted. And one of the best things about the UK, in the opinion of a lot of people, including myself, over the last 50 years, is that we have had this public education system. We've had this system whereby, people from any kind of background could go to university for free and could get that knowledge, could get that training. And that's just simply not going to be the case anymore. And for a lot of people, that's really hard to take. It's hard to take the fact that, so many of our parents, certainly my parents, would never have been able to go to university if they had to pay for it in the way that my younger sisters are going to have to pay. Yeah. And for a lot of us, it just doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel right.
There are more demonstrations planned, as I understand it, for November 24th. What about those, as you said, who are being charged now with having committed violence last week? What's happening to them? Are they all right?
Well, it's interesting that you use this word violence, because it's a word that a lot of people in the press are using. And of course, there was that incident where some idiot dropped a fire extinguisher from the roof and it nearly hit a police officer. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. But people seem to think that violence against persons is somehow the same as violence against property, which I'm not, obviously it's a crime, but, I'm not sure that people have the right perspective here if they're thinking that, it's okay to smash up someone's future, but it's not okay to smash up someone's lobby. I mean, the people who own, and this is just a personal opinion here, the people who own Tory HQ are a business people called the Reuben Brothers, and their net worth is over £5 billion. And, they make hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. And, of course, all the damage caused to Tory HQ, that will probably be covered by insurance. It's financially, it's not going to worry these people. But actually,
It turns out they don't even pay taxes in the UK, as I understand it.
No, they don't pay tax in the UK.
Laurie,
it's not going to worry them at all.
We ran out of time, but I'm eager to talk to you again very soon. We want to know what's happened to those who've been detained, and we want to follow what happens in the run-up to the 24th. We're counting on you to keep your system in place, because we need it here as a model. Thanks so much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Find more information about Laurie Penny and her writings at The New Statesman through links at our website, grittv.org.